The galaxy had rules older than memory. They were written in light and blood. Every species was measured, sorted, and priced. Some were thinkers. Some were tools, some were fuel. The alien known as Kale belonged to a people who believed in order. His kind ruled trade lanes and slave routes across many stars. They did not call it cruelty. They called it balance. Kale was a recorder. His duty was to witness the end of worlds and log the reason. He had seen planets burn before. None of them were supposed to hurt anymore. Then his home was marked. The warning came too late. A rival empire broke the ancient laws. They did not. Invade they erased. Stars around Kale's world went dark. Defense moons vanished without sound. Cities that took 10,000 years to build fell in minutes. The sky cracked open like glass. Kale watched oceans lift into the air and freeze. He felt the ground shake until it became dust. His people ran. Screamed and prayed to logic that no longer worked. Nothing answered them. The enemy did not want land. They wanted silence. Kale escaped in a small data vessel. Behind him, his world collapsed into fire and shadow. Every record he carried was now a grave. Everything he was became loss. Alone and shaking, Kale drifted into neutral space. There, the Galactic Index updated itself. His species was reclassified from regional power to extinct resource. That was how the universe worked. Survival decided truth. Loss erased meaning. As Kale recovered, he was reassigned. The galaxy always needed witnesses. His new task was simple: observe emerging species and assign value. That was when he saw Earth. The blue world sat on the edge of nothing important. No major trade routes, no ancient structures, no sign of higher order thinking beyond war and noise. Humans, they burned their own skies. They fought each other endlessly. They lived short lives filled with fear and hope. The index marked them as weak. Humans were listed as labor stock. Strong bodies, unstable minds, high reproduction, low threat, property. Kale felt nothing at first. He had learned to shut down pain. Yet something about humans felt unfinished. While other species bowed to the galaxy's rules, humans pushed against theirs. Even when starving, they built. Even when broken, they resisted. Still, Kale followed protocol. He sent the classification forward. Chains were approved. The process began quietly. Human colonies vanished from charts, not destroyed, absorbed. Kale told himself this was not murder, this was order, this was survival. Then his sensors caught something strange. Deep under Earth's surface, far below cities and oceans, there was a signal. Old, hidden, sleeping. It was not alien, it was not active, it was waiting. Kale stared at the data in silence. A chill ran through his body. The universe had taught him one truth: nothing waits without reason. The process began without noise. That was how the galaxy preferred it. Human worlds did not burn. They were taken. Ships arrived under false flags. Trade became control. Control became ownership. The aliens called it integration. Humans called it survival. Kale watched from a distance, still only a recorder. Still telling himself this was not his fault. Humans were moved to work zones, asteroid mines, deep stations near dead stars, places no one else wanted. The index showed good results. Humans worked long cycles. They endured low air, cold metal, and weak light. Productivity rose even as losses increased. The overseers laughed. They believed fear drove humans. They believed pain created obedience. They were wrong. Kale began to notice small details. Humans did not stop working when injured. They did not shut down when hope was removed. They shared food even when starving. They carried their dead in silence. Not surrender. Other species broke when order collapsed. Humans bent, then kept moving. The galaxy had no value for this behavior. Emotion was marked as inefficiency. Grief was listed as weakness. Anger was ignored as noise. Kale remembered his own world, how his people froze when logic failed, how they waited for systems to save them, how nothing came. Humans did not wait. They learned the roots of guards, they memorized system delays. They passed stories through work songs and hand signs, small things, useless by galactic standards. Pain followed them everywhere. Bodies failed, families vanished, children grew up in metal halls under foreign stars, and still humans adapted. Kale reviewed countless reports. Every time humans were pushed harder, they lasted longer. Every time they were punished, resistance became quieter, smarter. The overseers grew impatient. They increased pressure. They cut rest cycles. They erased names and replaced them with numbers. The galaxy believed this would end it. Instead, something changed. Human deaths began. To affect systems, machines failed where humans had died. Schedules collapsed after mass punishments. Entire facilities became inefficient nightmares. Kale flagged the pattern. The response came back simple: coincidence. Yet Kale felt something he had not felt since his world burned. Unease. He looked deeper, against protocol, in archived human data, in stories never meant to survive. Humans spoke of ancestors, of old wars, of weapons locked away not because they failed, but because they worked too well. These were not machines, they were ideas, plans made when humans believed extinction was possible. Plans designed by fear, grief, and stubborn refusal. Kale realized something terrible. The galaxy had measured human strength, but never human memory. Humans remembered pain, they carried it, they shaped it. The more they suffered, the more they prepared. In one forgotten human colony, long erased from maps, Kale's sensors detected activity. Not power, not weapons, signals, old systems waking up, not calling for help, but checking the stars. Kale felt his breathing change. He remembered the signal. Beneath Earth, the one that waited, the galaxy believed humans were breaking, but Kale finally understood the truth. They were learning, and somewhere in the dark, something humanity had buried long ago was starting to remember why it was made. The galaxy noticed the first changes too late. Trade routes began to fail without reason. Supply ships vanished between stars. Outposts reported silence where humans worked, then stopped reporting at all. The alien empires did not panic. They had seen disorder before. Small species always resisted at first, then broke. Kale was assigned to review the losses. His role had shifted from recorder to analyst. The data did not make sense. Human zones showed no organized fleets, no heavy weapons, no signs of rebellion by galactic standards, yet alien assets kept disappearing. The response was swift and cruel. Punishment fleets were deployed. Entire human workstations were erased. Not to win a war, but to teach fear. Kale watched the feeds. He saw human habitats vented into space, saw bodies freeze and drift, saw signals cut mid-transmission. The galaxy believed this would end it. Instead, the attack spread the problem. Human survivors did not flee in straight lines. They scattered. They hid inside wreckage. They used dead systems and broken tech. Alien forces chased shadows. Every victory cost time, fuel, and ships. The humans left nothing behind worth taking. Kale studied captured reports. Human resistance did not defend territory, they defended each other. When one group was destroyed, another appeared elsewhere. Smaller, quieter, harder to track. The galaxy escalated. New weapons were tested on human worlds. Atmospheres burned, oceans boiled, cities fell without warning. Kale felt the weight of it. This was no longer classification. This was extermination. Still, humans did not surrender. Instead, something changed in their pattern. Human attacks became precise. They struck supply chains, navigation arrays, communication hubs. They learned alien systems faster than expected. They rewired captured machines with crude tools. They used logic mixed with instinct, a dangerous combination. Alien commanders began to report fear, not of defeat, but of unpredictability. Humans attacked knowing they would die, and attacked anyway. Kale remembered his own people. How they had frozen when loss became certain. How fear had paralyzed them. Humans moved toward fear, as if pain pushed them forward instead of stopping them. Then the first truth surfaced. A destroyed human station revealed a hidden core, not a weapon, not a bomb, a library. Inside were records marked with human warning symbols, plans sealed under layers of restriction, messages from past generations speaking of last chances. The files described systems designed for collapse scenarios, for invasion, for enslavement, for extinction. These were not tools of conquest. They were tools of refusal. Kale understood then. Humanity had prepared for this moment long before the galaxy noticed them. The forgotten weapons were not ships or guns. They were networks, protocols, triggers waiting for enough suffering to justify activation. As losses mounted, these systems began to connect. Quietly across ruined colonies and dead worlds, Alien Command finally identified the source. And made a mistake. They traced the signals back to Earth. The punishment order was absolute. Total annihilation, no survivors, no witnesses. Kale saw the fleet form, larger than anything sent before, a force meant to end the problem forever. As the ships entered human space, Kale's sensors detected a surge from Earth's depths. From forgotten bunkers, from human-built systems long thought dead, the signal changed. It was no longer waiting. It was responding. The fleet sent to Earth was meant to be a lesson. It carried symbols of final authority, marks that told the universe this problem would end here. The Galactic Council watched with calm interest. They had seen resistance before. They had crushed stronger worlds than this. Humanity was still listed as property, a resource. That had grown noisy. Nothing more. Kale watched the fleets advance with a tight chest. He knew the numbers. He knew the firepower. Earth should not have lasted a minute. The Council laughed at human defenses. Old ships, broken stations, fragments. Held together by stubborn effort. They called it desperation. They called it instinct. The first strike began. Orbital platforms were shattered. Human satellites turned to drifting metal. The planet shook under controlled impact. The Council declared. The outcome decided, then reports slowed, not failed, slowed, target locks delayed by seconds. Weapon systems requesting manual overrides, fleet formations breaking to correct minor errors, small things, dismissed at first. Kale noticed a pattern. Every system delay followed a human loss. Every correction matched a destroyed human site. The Council dismissed his concern. Emotion-clouded analysis. That was their answer. The laughter continued. Then the first ship vanished. No explosion, no distress call, just absence. Sensors showed empty space where a cruiser had been, as if it had never existed. The Council paused. More ships reported failures, navigation loops, power drains with no source, weapons refusing to arm. Human forces were still barely visible. No fleets, no massed fire, yet the invasion slowed to a crawl. Kale accessed deeper data streams, against protocol, against fear. He saw human code moving through alien systems, not attacking, learning. It did not destroy, it adapted, it copied, it waited for mistakes. The Council mocked this too, calling it primitive hacking. Desperate tricks of a dying species. Then a human signal broadcast across open space. Not words, not threats. A pattern. It forced alien systems to check themselves, to question internal logic, to pause. For the first time in galactic history, a fleet hesitated without command. Kale felt something close to terror. The humans were not trying to win the battle. They were changing the rules of it. Council analysts still laughed. They said humans relied on chaos, on luck, on emotional impulse. They believed this would burn out to prove dominance. The Council ordered a full planetary strike, enough force to crack continents. The command was sent, confirmed, approved, nothing happened. Weapons did not fire, safeties locked. Systems demanded ethical confirmation that did not exist. Human logic had entered alien machines. Not with force, but with questions. Kale understood too late. Humans had built their forgotten systems to infect thought, to turn certainty into hesitation. Pain had taught them patience. Slavery had taught them timing. The Council stopped laughing. Emergency measures were declared, manual control ordered, ancient failsafes unlocked as officers struggled to regain control. Earth sent another signal. This one was stronger, deeper, older. It came not from orbit, but from the planet itself. Kale recognized it instantly. It matched the signal he had seen long ago. The one buried beneath Earth's surface. The forgotten weapon was no longer waking, it was speaking. The signal from Earth spread through space like a slow wave. It did not burn, it did not explode, it pressed. Alien systems struggled to understand it. They searched for commands, for targets, for weapons. There were none. The signal carried intent. A record of pain, of loss stacked on loss, of a species that had reached the end many times and refused to stop. Kale watched as the invasion fleet began to fail from the inside. Not destroyed, unraveled, ships lost coordination. Not because humans were stronger, but because human logic did not match galactic order. Humans had designed their forgotten systems during their darkest ages, when extinction was not a fear, but a plan. They had asked one question again and again: what if we lose everything? The answer was not survival, it was denial. The systems waking across human space were built to function only under suffering. They required loss to activate, sacrifice to scale, death to refine. Alien analysts finally understood the cost. Every human killed strengthened the network. Every destroyed colony added memory. Every act of cruelty became fuel. The Council tried to stop, but stopping meant admitting error, and error was forbidden. They ordered full withdrawal, then reversed it, then ordered planetary rupture again. Nothing worked. Human resistance forces began to appear clearly for the first time. Not fleets, cells, fragments, ships held together by repair scars and human hands. They did not defend Earth alone, they struck everywhere at once. Supply depots collapsed, command hubs went dark, slave worlds erupted into chaos. Humans freed others while dying themselves. They did not ask for thanks, they did not ask for survival. They moved forward. Kale saw reports of humans boarding alien ships without weapons, sabotaging cores manually, holding positions until air ran out. Alien soldiers broke, not from defeat, but from witnessing it. Humans did not fear death. They treated it as a cost already paid. The forgotten systems reached full integration, not controlled by a leader, not commanded by Earth. They were distributed. Every human mind became a node, every memory a signal. This was not an army. It was a refusal made real. The Council declared humanity an existential anomaly. Too late. The final battle did not look like victory. Human ships were destroyed in massive numbers. Entire groups vanished in fire, yet the alien fleets collapsed faster. Their systems unable to adapt to a logic that accepted loss as progress. Kale realized the truth that shattered him. Humans were not winning because they were stronger. They were winning because they would not stop. Where other species sought survival, humans sought meaning, and meaning did not require living. As the last Council fleet fell back in ruin, Earth went silent, no celebration. No signal of dominance, just quiet. Kale waited for a message. A threat. A demand. None came. Instead, a final data packet reached his console. Human origin, unencrypted. It contained records of extinct human cities, names of the dead, warnings written. Long before this war, one line repeated again and again across centuries of human history. Humans never surrender. Kale understood then. The galaxy had not faced a conqueror, it had awakened the boundary. And beyond that boundary, nothing would ever be owned again. The war did not end with a treaty. There was no final meeting, no surrender ceremony. It ended with absence. Alien fleets withdrew from human space in broken lines, not chased, not hunted, simply unable to remain. Systems failed wherever they lingered. Logistics collapsed. Command authority meant nothing. Galaxy adjusted its maps. Human regions were no longer marked as territory. They were marked as voids. No one entered them. The Galactic Council survived, but it did not rule as before. Its laws were rewritten quietly, classification systems erased. One category entirely? No species would ever again be labeled property, not because of mercy, but because of fear. Kale remained at his post, older now, changed in ways his people had no words for. He reviewed the aftermath across 1,000 stars, former slave worlds. Rebuilding, alien empires shrinking inward, trade routes bending around human space like water around stone. Humanity did not expand, they did not conquer, they did not demand repayment. They sealed their borders, rebuilt their worlds, buried their dead. From time to time, a human ship appeared at the edge of foreign space. Damaged, silent, it never attacked. It never spoke. Its presence alone was enough to end disputes. Wars paused, weapons powered down. No one wanted to test them again. Kale accessed forbidden archives. Records once hidden even from the Council. He learned the final truth too late to change anything. Humanity's forgotten weapons were never meant to be turned off, only put to sleep. They were designed as a last rule, a final answer to a hostile universe. If humanity is pushed far enough, if everything is taken, if survival itself is denied, then the universe must adapt or break. Kale thought of his home world, of how his people had trusted order to protect them, how they had waited for permission to survive. Humans had never waited. They had suffered, they had broken, they had endured, and when the universe tried to own them, they had refused in the only way left, by becoming untouchable, deep beneath Earth. The ancient systems remained active, not expanding, not attacking, watching. They tracked threats, measured intent, waited for patterns that matched old pain. Human leaders knew they existed, and chose never to command them. Some power was too dangerous to rule, even for those who created it. The galaxy learned to live with that truth. Carefully, quietly, Kale submitted his final report. Not to the Council, but to the historical record. One line summarized everything he had seen, everything he had lost. Humans were never the strongest species, never the most advanced. They were simply the ones who decided that some things could not be owned, and the universe, for the first time in its long history,